Nika's ancient lore gets dropped by the Elder of the Giants. He explains to Luffy about their ancient texts that illustrate world history, how they say the world was destroyed twice, and each time Nika was at the front of it. But because of varying translations, no one knows what really happened, so it's unclear if he was a savior or the one who destroyed the world. But all we know for sure is that his presence brings great change. The rulers of the day always fear Nika's return. Now, Luffy recognizes that name because Bonnie mentioned it before, as the Elder says yes, the sun god has become a symbol, someone the hopeless and desperate turn to for salvation. They say Nika is adorned by white clouds, with white hair and white clothes to boot. And he's said to have a contagious booming laugh. Luffy's like, oh, no wonder everybody's been saying I look like him, but I'm sure he's got nothing to do with me. But the Giants are like, nah, yo, don't be so dismissive. You'd understand if you were born here because we all look up to Nika. Even Roto, the one that kidnapped y'all. So he's like, And the Elder says even Loki was the same. I believe his motive for killing the king was his attempt to follow in Nika's footsteps. All the Giants like, fuck no, nothing can justify what he did. He killed his own father. But Luffy's like, so Loki's a good guy? And again, they're all like, hell no. He's the accursed prince. There was a prophecy before Loki was born that foretold that King Harold would be slain by his son. Then shortly after his birth, the royal steed, the Horse of Fortune, died. That was the same year that Big Mom murdered the legendary hero Jorul, and the tragedies kept coming. Then a year later, the queen died herself, and the young prince would go on to use his natural strength to make the realm of the dead his own personal playground. He killed many of the ferocious beasts and tamed the rest, and he even released a few into the villages. At that point, he was still only 10. He would also burn people's houses down for fun. So Loki's mischief endangered countless lives. Like he had the authority of a prince and a malicious personality. He caused hell whenever the king wasn't looking. And then finally, in that very castle, Loki killed King Harold, his own father, the greatest monarch that Elbaf ever knew. The splendid wise man who tried to connect with the outside world, to get people to see past Elbaf's feared reputation as a land of warriors. And even Lord Jarul was stabbed trying to stop Loki. We see the sword sticking through his head. He says it was his helmet that saved him, but Luffy's like, that shit didn't save anything. Loki's reign of terror finally came to an end 6 years ago when he was running amok at sea and red-haired Shanks captured him. But Luffy's like, oh shit, Shanks really came here? But yes, in fact, he was just here earlier. I'm not sure where he went though, and Zoro's just listening. But cuts to the outskirts of the village because he wanted to talk with Luffy privately as he knows he made a deal with Loki. You realize he's a Kingslayer, right? Everything he told you has to be a lie. Luffy's mad like, come on, he said he knew where Shanks was. You have any idea how badly I want to see him? Zoro's like, yes, nigga, I've heard it 1,000 times. It sounds like he's using that to trick you. He's like, how would you know? You've never even met Loki. But he says, I'm just guessing based off his bad reputation. And Luffy's like, well, if he was really lying, I'm gonna whoop his ass. And it cuts over to Nami, who's made Roto her personal slave. It looks like he's happy to do this, talking about he's truly blessed. They linked up with Luffy and Zoro, and she says, if you're sneaking off to do what I think you are, do you seriously expect to find your way there without me? So we see their plan is to get the key to Loki's chains. If Roto does anything to resist, they're just gonna get rid of him. He's really just happy serving as Nami's slave. Assures them that the rest of the Giants are probably passed out drunk anyway. We see they're approaching the castle, and Nami's like, if all the treasure in that castle disappeared, would anybody notice? And Roto's like, nah, my vision's so terrible, I wouldn't even peep it. They really about to rob these niggas. Then it cuts back to Loki in the realm of the dead, as we see the two cloaked figures pulled up on him, and he says he refuses their offer. I'm sure it's an honor to be invited to join your noble knights, but that would make you celestial dragons, right? You really expect anyone on the planet to willingly become scum like that? So Imu and the Gorosei are trying to recruit him onto their side through these two holy knights, and again, bro looks like Shanks. He asked the other knight if they have any intel, but all their informants on Elbaf have been cut off. We see her name is Gunko, but she's tired of just standing around and listening. Now one of the giant beasts starts walking up on them. Loki orders the wolf to eat them up. She says, step back if you want to keep breathing, before using some kind of arrow or whatever the fuck to choke the dog and lift it up into the air. Loki's screaming for the wolf because he really grew up with these beasts. The one that looks like Shanks asks if we spare him, would you change your mind? And Loki's like, damn, so that's how y'all operate? Well, if that's the case, I'd accept my friend's fate and wish him peace and death. It's okay to grieve and rage, but a warrior never kicks and screams in the face of death. Well, I'll swallow all my fury and use it to fuel me when I reduce this world to rubble. He just left them speechless. Now, it's been 14 years since the king of Elbaf died. Since then, no one has come near his castle. Of course, that's where Luffy's pulling up to get the key to Loki's chains. He's still just so excited at the thought of Loki telling him where Shanks is. So they ask Roto if he knows where the key is, but he's like, nah, I'm just a regular giant. So they're just exploring the castle and seeing all the damage that was left from Loki killing his father. Apparently, it wasn't like a quick assassination. They had a whole war between father and son, because Loki's a monster and King Harold was a great warrior. So the whole place is just full of skeletons, because the castle had numerous guards, and on that day 100 of them stood against Loki, but only one survived, the elder Jarul they were just talking to, the one with the sword through his head. And after that tragedy, coming to this place was forbidden. He says it's a den for vengeful spirits. But Luffy's just playing around with the skulls like, yo, look, it's got horns. And Roto says that was someone with ancient giant warrior blood, but there are no longer any pure-blooded members of that clan, even though their DNA is still in some of us, like King Harold, who is bigger and stronger than most, as he points out one of his old portraits, saying it's nostalgic. He's the man who tried to form peaceful bonds with the outside world, and is said to be Elbaf's strongest king. And those scars on his head mark where his ancient giant horns were, before he ripped them out, as he believed the ancient giants were relics from a war-torn era. So hearing this shocks Luffy, and Zoro's like, damn respect, what conviction. But after his death, the country fell into despair, and sadly the one with the biggest grudge against Loki was King Harold's other son, Hajrudin. Okay, then what the... Alright, the lore is crazy right now. Damn, Luffy beat up Loki's brother in Dressrosa, what the fuck? But they have different mothers, cause before marrying the queen, Hajrudin was born to a different woman. But Elbaf would never recognize Hajrudin's mom as a queen, cause she was born in a different giant country. Wait a fucking minute, there's more giant countries. But Zoro's like, what does that matter? You're all giants, right? And he's like, yeah, but you humans can't talk when y'all kill each other all the time over land. So Zoro's like, damn, yeah, I guess so. And they say having children with a giant from another land taints the blood of Elbaf. So Nami's like, it seems like y'all can be just as bigoted as everyone else. But Zoro asks, why would you join Hajrudin's crew if he has tainted blood? And he's like, well, as it shows us how they became friends in the past. Roto's good at charting the sea, so they just became cool. You see, he was always so earnest and straightforward, unlike me. And he never lived in the castle growing up, because even though his dad was the king, his mom was ostracized. But even though he endured a lot, he still said that one day I'm gonna unite all the giant tribes. And it cuts back over to them partying as he's yelling, I'm gonna be king of the giants, as they all cheer him on. And Roto wants to make his dream a reality. And Zoro sighs like, that kind of boring motivation is nothing new to me. But then Luffy yells over that he found some knocked out giants, but now Gunko is just beating the shit out of Loki while he's chained up. And he's like, come on, you're only doing this because I can't move. As the bootleg Shanks said it would be the same even if you could. But she calls him a commoner, saying we're offering you a chance at divinity. Most die squirming in vain, just for the slightest chance to attain such an honor. She uses her power again with these arrows that like go across and then up Loki's face. So he's like, crap, this again? So you're gonna kick me full speed in the right side of my face, which will turn me sideways, and then you're gonna uppercut me. Thanks for giving me the warning. But she's like, these arrows just show the trajectory of my future, but the outcome is unavoidable. Only I can stop it before it happens. So just say the word, Loki. Will you join the Holy Knights? And again, he refuses. She commences her attack, kicking him right in his shit, and she's a little caked up for following it up with that uppercut. My man's not dead, but he sure is going through it, and all the beasts are upset watching him get tortured. Gunko is tearing them up as well. Loki says you'll pay for this, so she goes to attack him again, but he screams for her to stop. But she's like, well, are you gonna join? This dickhead just sticks out his tongue like bleh. Well, of course, she kept torturing his ass. You'll probably hear him screaming a mile away. She's actually getting winded from beating his ass. Bootleg Shanks says it's alright. Let's switch up our tactics. Contact Mary Joie. And we see this holy knight isn't Shanks, but somebody that looks smack like him, Figurlin Shamrock, the son of Saint Garling. So looking like this, he has to be Shanks' twin brother or some shit, which means Shanks is like a former celestial dragon? And what the fuck is this peak right here? He says not every piece ends up being useful. Wanted to go about this more shrewdly, but I guess not. Long ago, the savage warriors of Elbaf dominated the New World. The world government will bring them to heel no matter what. But Shanks wasn't the fucking rat. It's his fucking twin brother.